What is going on, YouTube universe? My name is Trent and welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, where we discuss everything Australian rules football. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it is a new round of football. Round 20 is upon us and it is time, yet again, to get our tips in ahead of another round of AFL action. Before we do so, it is prudent that we take the time to reflect on the weekend that was before we dive into the weekend that will be. And I'm very happy with my tipping this week. I got 6 out of 9, and given the fact that my median has been a 4 out of 9, we will take an improvement any way, shape or form any day of the week. The blemishes we had came from games that really shouldn't have fallen that way given the circumstances we have seen teams play this year, but there's always room for upset, right? Friday night, it was Essendon taking on Adelaide, and we saw a fast finishing Adelaide outfit knock Essendon off. GWS managed to defeat the Gold Coast at home. St Kilda ran over a depleted West Coast side. I tipped Collingwood to defeat Hawthorn, and the Jack Ginnivan show was well and truly in force because they absolutely demoralised the Magpies. Geelong fumbled the ball at home to the Bulldogs, and we had tipped Geelong to get over the line in that game as well. And then we have green lights for the rest of the weekend, with wins coming from Port Adelaide, Brisbane, Fremantle and Carlton. After the rough year we have had, 6 out of 9 is an outcome we will take any day of the week. That being said, 7 out of 9 was the most correct tips made by any tipster within my tipping competition for the 2024 season. So taking the time to congratulate the following in Pommy Tiger, Maj Tig 77, Mikey is a Rat, Dan Cash, and Team Wiggles. Congratulations to each of you for tipping the most correct amount of tips for the competition this given week. And with that being said, I still think we have a two-way tie up the top of the ladder when we look at the total tips. Mikey is a Rat, Damien K, and Dan Cash, Daniel P, both leading the competition on 110 tips. Right behind them in third place, we have Dusty Fendoff 4. Nipping at the heels, we have Some Cripple and Team Wiggles rounding out our top 5, with our top 10 rounded out by Frio 90, Maj Tigers, Saintly 12, and Pommy Tiger and Durable Lamb. Benny Craig sitting just outside of the 10, well, sitting in 10th, tied, if you'd rather. So congratulations to Mikey is a Rat and Dan Cash for leading the competition heading into round 20. Congratulations to the rest of the coaches and teams that make up our top 10. And having a look at where I'm currently situated, I moved up to 19 overall, which has me only 4 behind in the top 10. Hopefully this given week, we can make some moves, because I am going to be making a few tips this week that might go against the grain to kind of maybe get myself up that ladder just a wee little bit, just a little bit. We have some very tasty matchups this weekend, and with the door truly wide open for a handful of teams to still make a push for finals in the 2024 season, these outcomes are going to start becoming more critical than not, especially given some losses here almost put a strike through that given team's season, if you will, because a loss here for some will put them just out of reach, and it's hard to believe that we still have so many teams in contention at this given point of the season. Normally, at this point of the year, we're just looking to find where that configuration of the top 8 that has already established itself is going to finish. It's not often that we still have 4 or 5 teams outside of the 8 still vying for a spot, and I suppose that's one thing we can be excited about as football fans this season, given the lack of other avenues for us to be excited about, because the adjudication of the game and the state of the game is definitely not as good as it has ever been, regardless of what CEO fucking Andrew Dillon has to say about it. But later tonight, Marvel Stadium, we have a very tasty clash between Carlton and Port Adelaide. Carlton looking to solidify a top 4 spot. Port Adelaide looking to continue to solidify a top 8 spot, potentially pushing for a top 4 finish. There are some outs for both teams, notably Blake Acres being out for Carlton as well as Tom de Koning, but Mark Pitney comes back in for Carlton to fill that ruck void. They have brought in 2 defenders, I believe. I can't remember. Brody Kemp, I think, maybe came in, and Mitch McGovern comes back in for Carlton as well. So defensively, they're really setting their stocks up well. Port Adelaide have elected to drop Ollie Lord. Very confused as to why, but I don't see how Carlton fumbled this game at Marvel Stadium. Port Adelaide haven't been impressive away from Adelaide in any way, shape or form. Last week, struggled to put Richmond to the sword for 3 quarters. I think coming up against Carlton, they're gonna see themselves undone here, and I'm gonna say 20 points the way of Carlton. I think that's a comfortable position to be throwing ourselves in. Saturday afternoon at Blundstone Arena, we have North Melbourne taking on Geelong. Something deep down inside me tells me that the way North Melbourne has been playing recently could cause an upset. I'm divided deep down. It is hard. It's hard to back against Geelong here. Geelong have some good ins this particular week, but North Melbourne, again, playing a good brand of football. If Geelong rock up and play how they did against the Bulldogs last week in this particular game, I give North Melbourne every single chance. I've just got to roll the dice and hope Geelong are good enough. People's First Stadium, Gold Coast, Brisbane. Hugh clash at a location that has seen Gold Coast go undefeated for this year until now. Brisbane, in my opinion, are the most informed team in the competition currently, and they're going to be very hard to stop. They're a juggernaut chugging towards a grand final appearance, I feel, again, and the Gold Coast is just a roadblock that's temporarily going to pop up, and Brisbane's going to find a way to get around it. Marvel Stadium, St Kilda taking on Essendon. Essendon have some big ins this week. They bring back Peter Wright, they bring back Darcy Parish, and they bring back Dyson Heppel. Minus maybe 1 or 2 players, this is as full strength an Essendon team as you are going to see on the field. If they are not good enough to knock off St Kilda here, they don't deserve to play finals in 2024. Harsh, maybe, but I think a lot of people would agree. MCG, Saturday night, we have Melbourne taking on GWS. Even though Max Gawn comes back into this lineup, I find it very hard to be convinced that GWS don't get the job done here. We know GWS can travel down to MCG. We know they can win at the MCG. Melbourne want to win this game to keep in touch with finals, but I think it's going to be a little bit too far out of reach. I think GWS are going to do a lot of damage in this game. And Saturday night rounds out with a Western derby between Fremantle and West Coast. West Coast bringing back in a lot of top tier talent. They've got Jack Darling coming back in. They've got McGovern coming back in. They've got Elliot Yeo coming back in. There's a few others coming back in as well. I don't think it's going to be enough. I'm really torn. Part of me says we have to back in West Coast here, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. We're locking in Fremantle. I think Fremantle have way too much to lose in this game, and they're gonna go balls to the wall as hard as they possibly can to ensure a top 4 finish this year. Sunday afternoon, MCG, Collingwood-Richmond. I'm backing Richmond to get the win here. Now, bear with me, because a lot of you are probably thinking that I've lost the fucking plot here. Collingwood do have some big ins coming in this week. They potentially have Lockie Schultz, Mason Cox, Billy Frampton, those type of players coming back in. Richmond have Nick Vlosten, Tim Taranto, Jacob Bauer to come in for his first run of the year. And I feel when we look at Collingwood and Richmond in 2 respective sides, I feel even though Richmond haven't been getting the wins on the board, Richmond have shown more than what Collingwood have over the last month. I don't know, maybe I'm being completely biased, but I feel this is as winnable a game for Richmond as Richmond is going to get for the rest of the year. Two teams that have been struggling, two teams that have been decimated by injury, two teams on still opposite sides of the spectrum because Collingwood are still looking to keep their finals chances alive. If Richmond win, Richmond almost put a strike themselves through Collingwood's year. Collingwood win, they still have a sniff at making the top 8. I just feel Richmond has nothing to lose. They're just going to roll the dice here. Collingwood has everything to lose, but they have something to gain out of it as well, I suppose. So the hunger's going to be there for both. I think Richmond's going to get the job done, though. Something tells me deep down that my boys are going to rise to the occasion. Fingers crossed. SCG, Sydney Bulldogs. Bulldogs were impressive last week against Geelong, in terrible conditions, might I add. But it's hard to see Sydney losing in Sydney. I've got to back them in at home. If the Bulldogs can pull off a coup here and walk away with a win, they deserve a top 8 spot. I think Sydney, after losing a close contest this particular weekend just gone, they're going to want to bounce back. All their losses they have had this year accumulate to a total of 9 points, I believe. That is insane at how close their finishes have been when they have lost. But I think they get the job done here against the Bulldogs. And the final game of the round, Adelaide taking on Hawthorn. I am taking Hawthorn to win. Adelaide with some notable outs, probably no bigger than Jordan Dawson. And I think with the momentum Hawthorn are rolling on with, they're going to rock up to Adelaide and do themselves some damage. So, this is how we're looking for round 20, ladies and gentlemen. Carlton, Geelong, Brisbane, Essendon, GWS, Fremantle, Richmond, Sydney, and Hawthorn. That is it for another round of tips. I want to thank you guys for joining me as always. If you do enjoy the content I do leave a like on the video because it goes a long way to telling YouTube I'm doing something right around here. As always, comment section is wide open for any suggestions for future content as well as any discussions you want to have about AFL because that's what we're here about. That's what we're here for. Let's have a conversation. Let's just give me something to respond to, please. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.